Boogie.
Boogie.
Yeah. And Boogie is a barn owl. So these guys are found native here to Georgia. As their name suggests, they really love to live in barns. You want to show off? You want? Really? There we go. So you see, well, he's trying to be into it. There we go.
Yeah.
You can see where he gets his name from. Boogie loves to boogie. He loves like being like the water, being misted and stuff. It makes him happy. Hence, he dances when he's happy. We'll do things like, as I talked about, these guys are essentially in hospice. We don't want them living that same day to day throughout their whole lives, the whole time they're here. So we do what's called enrichment. We do things from food puzzles, put toys, spices, branching, stuff like that. We'll even play like music for them, just something that changes up their day to day. So they're not living that same day to day, helps with their mental, aspect and everything. And what we found is, okay, good, thank you. That Boogie, you want to show off? Let's show you off a little bit. Hopefully you'll do it. Hey, now focus. You were doing it. You're being very, very distracted, boy. Hey, there we go. So we noticed when we would play on music too,
That's funny.
he loves to boogie. This is his favorite. He loves Elvis Costello.
See that? Go back, Mama. Go back.
And like we used to have another barn owl. Her she was kind of the opposite of him. She loved like Dr. Dre, Nicki Minaj, stuff like that. So playing the music and stuff, you get to learn what everybody likes. Some like different types of music. Some don't like music at all. It just kind of depends. That's what our handlers find out is things that these guys like, they don't like. It gets different things. Because hi. Each of these guys have different, personalities. Hi. And he also loves the wind. He loves windy days. I knew this was going to make him happy. He's Boogie. Yeah, he really loves the wind. So he's with us. Boogie was in a tree. He was about a year old. It got cut down. We're hoping / assuming the people do not know. We don't know for sure, unfortunately. But the sibling that was in there with Boogie ended up passing away. But he was in a tree he ended up with a broken wing that healed before he came to us. You can see how his right wing droops a little bit more than his left wing. You can even see it from like behind how it doesn't just sit as naturally. And so as a result, he can't fly well enough to hunt and survive in the wild. He can fly pretty well, but just not well enough where he's going to be able to hunt and survive, unfortunately. So that is why he is here with us. But these guys, I said, they get their names from barn owls because they love to live in barns. And they basically like to live in, they're cavity nesters. So they live where, like, there's enclosed spaces. So whether that's a barn, cavity of a tree, stuff like that. And, thank you. Appreciate that. Actually, it was very helpful. But before the inventions of barns, these guys were actually called ghost owls, and that's because of not only their coloration, but because of their calls. Really? There we go. So this is a barn owl call. So if you imagine being in the woods in the dead of night, hearing this call and then seeing a white owl fly right by you, I get where they kind of get that name, and probably why haunted forests became about. Because these guys are actually found on every continent except Antarctica. They might vary in size or coloration, but that pretty little heart-shaped face is how you can always know that it's a barn owl. And as I said, they're found all over the world, essentially, except Antarctica. Like I can imagine, especially like all those big European forests, and this is probably where all those ghost stories probably came from. I would not be surprised. Don't know for sure, but would definitely not be surprised.
Are we gonna be able to pet him?
No, unfortunately not. Thank you. Thank you. Fortunately, it's just water. But yeah, these guys are still wild and definitely would bite and or scratch for sure. So he is a male, and a really cool fun fact is, you know, in a lot of birds, it's hard to tell males and females apart, but especially when it comes to raptors, like birds of prey. But in barn owls, males will actually typically have this all white chest, and females, this speckle pattern would actually continue all the way onto the chest, like all the way down. Really, sir? What are you doing? And they've actually found that the more speckles a female has, the healthier she tends to be and more likely to find a mate. So that's a little fun fact you can impress your friends with. And they can manipulate those feathers too, to like when they're hunting, especially to help catch those sounds.
Does it ever make it all and a nest of it?
He's currently never made a call, unfortunately, like that. It'd be cool when if he does, but he has not. He's not much of a talker.
He's looking for bugs.
I know. He always likes to look up high. Birds always like to go to the highest spots, so they always like to look where they can go.
Why is his head weird?
Maybe he thinks your head looks weird.
I
I know. I'm kidding. Yeah.
At least his
It's not just the way that their face is.
At
Like,
least his neck gets whipped around like the other owl.
it can.
Kind of more disky. No, okay.
Yeah. That's what most owls have, is that little satellite shaped face. That almost disc-like face on them. It looks like a little heart, right? Alright.
Why when I made that sound, he was like. I can actually make a call that sounds like.
Really?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you like it? Oh, let's see. You can play it. Maybe.
Where did that come from?
And he's like, oh, wait, what was that sound?
Where did that sound come from?
Yeah.
He's trying to see if it came from Does he have to find pigeons to the hole?
Huh?
Does he have to find pigeons to Jimmy?
No. Yeah.
They're in the hole.
Oh, that one? No, not yet. He's looked up there, but not tried to go up there yet. But yeah.
He did not. How long has he been everywhere?
He's been with us about. I'm trying to remember. Has it been like 7, 8-ish years? Yeah, he's about 8 or 9 years old. So.
So he takes the kid.
Most Thompson owls will live about 15, 20 years.
They can live a
I know. The 15, 20 years is 100 years to them. It's like a dog, you know. Dogs, they don't live very long, unfortunately. Sorry, Seth.
I got old dogs. I got old dogs. My dog died. My dog has gray hair.
Yeah, my dog passed a couple months ago, so I know the feeling.
Sorry.
Do you guys have any questions about Boogie or anything? What's your question? Don't have to
Nasa
go.
dyan.
Why does it have like
The feet? So he's got, well, there's one behind and then 3 up front. The toes.
4.
Yeah. So he's got 4 toes. No, unfortunately not. These guys are still wild. Yeah. So, good browse, Boogie. So these guys, barn owls, are actually specialized hunters. So you know how, like, when you guys have asked me what all of our other, like the hawks ate and stuff, and I was like, they eat the little small rodents, and I was like, they use them for variety. These guys almost exclusively hunt rats. So that's about all that they eat. So that does also unfortunately make them more susceptible to eating poison rats, which is why you shouldn't do it. Because you can build like owl boxes and invite these guys into your area, or any owls in your area. You know, if you build an owl box and there's owls around and it's a good area, they'll probably hopefully use it. And they'll have their babies, and then the babies and them will all eat the rats around that you don't even have to do anything.
Wait, somebody locked the door.
have no idea. I saw them, but I don't know who they are. He basically constantly grows in what's called a blood feather. So when birds grow in their feathers, it uses the blood supply until that feather is fully grown in. And unfortunately, due to the damage of the car hitting it, what happens is he grows in that blood feather and it either breaks very easily or it kind of falls out. So he's constantly growing in those blood feathers. And that blood supply does make their wings heavier because of all that blood there that's growing the feathers. And so he permanently has this wing droop, and he can't fly but like 5-10 feet at a time. So he can't fly and hunt well enough to survive, which is why he's with us. There's also why we advocate very much for not throwing out trash on the side of the road. Even things like apple cores and orange peels still have an immediate effect on the wildlife. You know, the wildlife sees that food and they go to get it because they're just trying to find food to survive, and they don't know about cars and that they can hurt them, so they end up getting hurt or killed.
What's wrong with that?
And even ones that don't necessarily eat that food, the ones that hunt them, they're hunting, and birds get so focused in on their prey when they're hunting that they don't see the cars and they end up getting hit. Which is why we always advocate, you know, don't throw out your trash on the side of the road. You can throw out your apple cores and orange peels. You just want to make sure that they are far off of the road where the animals can't get hurt. So you can still do that. You just want to make sure that you do it properly. Because yeah, he's just breathing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's also why he's called Oscar the Grouch. He's got the RBF. He's got the, he was perma angry, but he's actually fine. This is his kind of baseline. If he was truly stressed, he'd be like constantly trying to fly away and everything, but
Like
he has the attitude I try and describe of like, he's going to go along with it, but he's going to let you know that he's upset the whole time. So, yeah. That's why he's Oscar the Grouch.
Cut the hair that's literally right there.
So, and you can also see where they get their name great horned owls. They have these quote unquote horns, even though they're just little feathers. And what they use that for is when they're hunting, or like when they're in the trees, they can blend in. They're gonna stand really tall and like get really tall and long, and they'll put up those little feathers and they'll look like a branch. So that way they use that for basically like camouflage.
Do they stand? Do they like do this and do that? Because I think it's an ant. Because humans will see them, but it's probably animals that are colorblind. But
Yeah, exactly.